Listen.
Posłuchaj.
Écoute.
Roma, 聞いてください.
Escucha. MCO.
Listen.
MCO.
MCO.
Between the bars.
Welcome to part 2 of our mini-series Kids on Board, a conversation with two MCO musicians, violinist Johannes Lörstad and oboist Emma Schied, about family life and touring the world's stages, sometimes with and sometimes without kids. We're at the Festival of Aix-en-Provence in the south of France, and you're listening to Zerlina and Mazzetto's love aria from Mozart's opera Don Giovanni. It's a historic EMI recording of MCO from the Festival of Aix-en-Provence before partners, before children, before schooling. A time when most of us owned just a suitcase of clothes and the instruments on our backs. Well, hopefully. Oh, and of course, a CD Walkman. Remember those? I'm Yannick Dondelinger, and this is Between the Bars, the podcast of the Mahler Chamber Orchestra. We're going to move on now. Yeah. Babies arrive. There was a point that happened quite quickly when babies were popping out with quite some frequency.
Especially second line.
Yeah, especially second line. I remember one point there was, we even talked at one point there was maybe 15 to 20 kids on a tour at some point. What do you think was changing in the MCO, in the Mahler Chamber Orchestra machine as an organisation to accommodate these new young MCO-ers?
Well, inevitably, you've got to change the structure. I mean, we started off as just either individual musicians or couple musicians or whatever, on tour without any children as a responsibility. And then once you start having a lot of people at the same time having babies, it's like in general society, you've got to set up rules and you've got to set up sort of provisions for people who are going to then work on tour with children. And I think also we interacted between ourselves as MCO musicians to sort of arrange babysitters, and if we knew someone in a town or we had a student who came from, I don't know, Seville or whatever, then we'd call them and say, do you know anyone who could look after 3 kids at the same time? And for instance, Joff and I would have a room each, so we'd dedicate a room to be the sort of nursery for the kids. And well, it's
in the
true.
Hotel?
Yes, in the hotel. Of course, you have to be extremely organised, and it also kind of helps that you're not alone. You have other parents who are going through the same thing, and then you sort of arrange, and it's also that's a nice feeling of community somehow within MCO. Like
an extended family in a way, when your extended family can't be with you.
Yes, and it is. I mean, MCO is a family.
I think that many different jobs are social, of course, but I think MCO is maybe extra social because we have to be. I mean, we are friends because we like each other, but I think also we have to accept each other as we are because we work so closely together. And when we had so many children that we helped each other out to make it work, that really is a good thing for the orchestra. I do remember that MCO had a lot of, in the beginning, we tried to give benefits to the parents, try to help them.
I wanted to ask about that. What specifically, changed in the orchestra structure to accommodate all this?
I think what I remember was that because there were so many members who got children, it was then voted, because the good thing about we have our own structure, I remember we gave some small bonus to every parent to help them bring the children on tour or extra cost at home. But then in the end, it started to become 2 divisions in the orchestra, which is not natural. And they felt it was a bit unfair. Okay, I decided to have children, I get benefits, I don't have. So in the end, we scrapped it, which I think is good. But now we have, I think the benefit we have now for parents is that the first year or something, you don't have any obligations, right, to play.
Well, I think in the beginning, we had a 3-year, potential 3-year parental leave, I remember.
Yeah.
And after some years, that was renegotiated down to 1. How much of the MCO debate, if you remember, from those years and still from now, how much of the MCO debate was balancing these different expectations of parents from different countries?
I remember it was very open-minded and generous in the beginning, and maybe too, because that's, of course, it's impossible to have a fair system. And I do now, having 3 kids myself, it's a decision that I took with my wife to have children. So in a way, I shouldn't expect money for that. I know it's going to cost money to have children. That's my decision.
Okay. What's your opinion on that?
Well, I don't know. It's difficult, isn't it? Because we were an orchestra starting out. I think we were just trying things out, and then people did see this problem coming up, that there would be many parents who were going to then be struggling whilst we were on tour. So we were trying to come up with solutions of how to accommodate all the, children, parents who had a partner who was staying at home, who couldn't maybe travel as much. And I think we just did our best to find a way that everyone would be able to play. In the end, I think it's true that now the parents' bonus, it's a good thing that it's got rid of. But I think it probably did help some people be able to stay members.
I was just going to say that. I think at that point, I remember one of the biggest worries, there was almost felt like an existential threat to the orchestra because we were all the same generation, because everyone was having babies. What happens if the majority of the orchestra basically has to leave because they can't marry parental life with being on tour? That would be end of MCO. And it's a very special situation, I suppose.
It was a solution. It maybe wasn't the perfect solution, but we had to find some sort of solution. And then, that's the great thing about MCO, is that we, as members, we get to decide on our own rules and we get to evolve. That's a wonderful business model.
It's like it's a society itself.
It is. It's like a mini society where you get to the rules evolve, the way that the structure can evolve according to our needs as we go along in life together.
And Ollie, how's that for you when Yannick is on tour, when your papa is on tour? And do you miss him a lot?
Yeah.
Yeah? What you do then when you miss him a lot? Is there something that helps you?
Yeah, I got like a picture with me as a baby, and my father holding me then. And that I always have at my bedside when he's gone.
And then when you miss him a lot, you can look at it and then he's close.
Travelling away from your children is one of the hardest things, even if you're off round the world making music. But they say it's harder still for those left behind at home. And concerning that, I wouldn't dare to disagree. You're listening to Don Ottavio singing about his love for Donna Anna. Here's what he's saying. Upon her peace of mind, mine also depends. Whatever pleases her makes me happy. Whatever displeases her makes me unhappy. If she sighs, then I too sigh. Her anger becomes mine and her tears too. And I cannot be joyful if she is not happy. Thinking about those words brings to mind my own feelings when I'm thousands of kilometres away from home, trying to comfort my children over digital FaceTime. I never feel the love stronger than when I'm separated from my family. Do you remember, for both of you, your first tour away from your first newborn?
The first really long one, I can tell you, when we went to Australia, we couldn't take Oscar. I think that was the first one where we went away.
How old was
It
he?
was awfully hard. He was really, really small, maybe, I don't know, three or four. He stayed a lot with his grandparents, with his French grandparents. But it was really hard because it was
First
far
time
away.
you and Joff
Yes,
were
maybe
from
we'd
him.
been away a couple of days here and there, but it'd never been that long. And of course, going to Australia, it was a big tour with Daniel. We were playing New World Symphony, among other things.
That.
And it's the distance that makes it seem. But also, I think we were away 3 weeks.
That's long.
And I remember, it was very, very hard. And we got back from tour, and I remember driving in with a car from the airport, and Oscar was there, and he ran towards us, and then he sat on my lap, and he shook for hours. He couldn't believe we were there, and it was just, really, it was a hard thing to be away. And I don't know if I would have maybe done things differently now, going back and not left him the 3 weeks.
I remember my first time away from my daughter Alice. I'd been home with her, Anna had worked, so I was home the first 5 months with Alice. And then it was the Claudio tour to Madrid, where we played, did we do Otello? And then we had a concert with the Beethoven Symphony, or Fidelio.
I don't think we did Otello with Claudio.
It was opera in Madrid with a symphony concert. For 10 days we were there, and I think I stayed in my hotel room the whole time, just waiting to get home.
Oh, bless you.
But are there any memories, places or images from those early travel years with your children that you especially will never forget? I think for me, we were in New York, and I brought Alice and Oliver there, and we were like scooting down the streets of New York. They thought we were really weird. Are there any special places you've been to, or things you remember with your kids?
Yeah, for me, I brought once my daughter to Japan, and once all three of them to New York. And those travels I would not have done otherwise. Japan, I would never fly to myself because it's just so expensive.
Yeah, exactly.
So thankfully, being a musician, you get the travel paid for, you have to pay for your children, of course, but then you can probably join it together to make a really nice work and hopefully sometimes tourist event. So I tried to choose the moments where there was time to do things as well as tourists. And they have bonded us together in a very nice way.
Great.
Oh.
Were there any places you remember, Emma, that you went to with Oscar that you will never forget?
I mean, there's lots of different. It's funny because the first 3 years it was just a very intense. We were just together as a family traveling, and it was just. We all enjoyed it, which was a great thing. It was extremely relaxing because obviously Oscar was.
Did you just say extremely relaxing?
Yes. I know. I just remember being really happy, and it was just because we were all together. I mean, that's very unusual to be able to travel with an orchestra. We could organise it really, really well. It was almost easier than if you'd been at home and had to take them to the nursery or whatever. I mean, it was easier.
Wow.
And particular memories, I don't know, travelling to Al Ain. I think we had a MCO tour. Do you remember that tour?
I remember that. Did you take Oscar there?
We took Oscar
in the
there.
middle of the desert?
Yes, and the trip was long. I think it was the first long flight that he'd had. I can't remember, 5 or 6 hours, maybe a bit more. And we arrived in the middle of the night, and we thought, how's he going to cope? He was wide awake. And then we had sort of a guide who was there. I don't know if he was sort of dressed in formal attire, with the whole, he dressed as a local. And he just picked Oscar up and he said, Oscar, my friend, I'm going to show you the airport. And then we just basically paraded around with Oscar in the arms of this guy, showing him, here's the man who's cleaning the floor. He was taking
Better than reading it in a book.
It was wonderful, just wonderful. I think also children bring something really special, and
children on the tour bring something special for the whole orchestra.
and it just also seemed to make, as long as they're not bawling their heads off or screaming or whatever, people are very. They find it wonderful that you're a touring orchestra and you're with your family, and it's a really unusual entity, an orchestra like that.
I remember in Ferrara when Emma was just a bit over more than one. She came there with my wife. And just the enjoyment of after breakfast going to the special cafe we found where there was a pain au chocolat she could have after breakfast. It was kind of, okay, let's do that, it's special. Now we Ferrara. And she still remembers this.
Ice cream in Italy as well.
No, it's just those things that makes you, yes, Daddy, I remember that. I got this chocolate, pain au chocolat after breakfast.
After breakfast. Yeah, after I clean my teeth.
Yeah.
Can you tell me something annoying about your father? That you sometimes are happy when he's not there? Is there something that when he's at home that you say, oh, thanks God he's on tour soon?
Actually, there is. Because when I'm doing something, like reading or homework, he always says, you need to practice, you need to practice. So, and when he's on tour, it's calm.
Is that happening to you too?
Oh yes, sometimes when I got school, I don't go up super early, we go up 8 o'clock. When school starts, so I have to go up at 7. And when Daddy always wakes me up, he drags me out of bed. But Mommy doesn't drag me out, so can I just stay a bit longer?
So that's the good thing when your father is on tour, that nobody drags you out of the bed, right?
Okay, so school starts, though. According to Wikipedia, compulsory education of some sort is present in nearly every country on the planet, except Bhutan, Papua New Guinea, Solomon Islands, and the Vatican City. How does touring change when schooling starts?
When I brought my children on tour with MCO, I managed to do it during the school holidays. Otherwise, I've then, as I said before, been lucky that my wife and my parents done a lot of work to be able to have them at home. So we haven't actually had to miss any school, even though it's been difficult sometimes. And of course, one day here or there we have called in sick, but not regularly. Not regularly. We wouldn't call it a symptom. Sometimes just being one day, oh no, how can we do this? And I must say also, I did ask the school sometimes, some occasions where, for example, once I brought my oldest daughter to Japan. Then I asked the school, can I take her out for a week because we got Japan? And they said, fine, let's do it into a cultural trip. So she has to do some work on that, and she has to tell us when she comes back how it was. So it was kind of a study trip.
Emma, how does it change when?
Well, it did change because it meant Oscar. We were living in France and they start school early, and so we could take him out, and we did try and do a lot of things during the holidays. And still, both of us in the early stages were only MCOing and not doing anything else. And then I inevitably, as he got older, we said, come on, one of us has to look for a stable job. So I looked for a teaching position because I thought that's going to be the one that I'll be able to combine. And in the end, just by chance, then I got the job in the Bayerische Rundfunk Orchestra in Munich. And I'm very lucky that my colleagues are very accommodating, and I managed to do now 50% of the work. But it's difficult, I have to say, leaving your kid behind. And I think,
well, especially maybe for Oscar, if you, as you say, you spent so much of his preschool years really on tour together.
He really wants to come on tour.
It must have been a big change because schooling is compulsory.
Well, in France you can homeschool, and so we had considered homeschooling, but we knew it would be difficult. And at the time, we'd read a lot of books and stuff and sort of talked to people, and lots of people said, oh, it's so important for them to have some rhythm and regularity. And we thought the best thing for Oscar would be to be in school. And then I got the job in Munich, and then in Germany, school is compulsory. You can't homeschool. So, yeah.
For all those school heads out there listening, how educational can it be for a child traveling internationally, not for a holiday, but to be with their performing parents? Tell them what the benefits are that they get.
I think there are a lot of benefits. As you said already, language, culture, geography, food, just to see what people eat in other countries. So to stop any kind of racism in the future, to learn the kids that people are different and that's okay, hands-on.
Definitely. Emma, do you think?
Yeah, I don't think you can overestimate the benefits of travelling and seeing different cultures and meeting different people, and that's a really great thing. Yeah. I mean, it makes you far more open-minded, and in my opinion, you accept so many more cultures and differences in people, and it makes you an open person, I think. And that is very important for kids to learn and adults. And I think it's so important to travel and to put yourself in those situations.
What type of things have you learned from other MCO parents and parenting in other countries? For example, myself, I remember talking with Matthew Truscott, our concertmaster, recalling how when he went to briefly live in Italy with his children, they went to school there in a class size that was basically single digits. I think there were less than 10 in the class. And I think back to my kids in Sweden, school size is between 22 and 30.
Yeah, I've learned that almost every country have their small differences, and many are good. It often comes down to the teacher. A great teacher can teach 30 kids, no problem. But the teacher is not really devoted, there could be problems.
Have you ever had differences of opinion with other MCO? Or you've thought, oh, wow, I don't know, glad we don't do it like that in my country. Or I have to really think about accepting that.
I've been trying to be open-minded and trying to absorb good things that I think is good, but try to leave the bad things out because...
You're a very positive guy.
Well, I try to be anyway. I try to be because normally I just learned that there are many ways to bring up a child, school as well, and there are many ways that work. Yeah. And every child is different. Yeah. So it's impossible to say one thing is for all. In Sweden, anyway, I do think what is a shame is that children don't have the same respect for teachers anymore.
You're not the first person.
No, it's so sad to see. I mean, we really try to teach our kids you have to respect the teacher. That's basic. And many small kids nowadays...
It's a very liberated social system in Sweden.
That's the only thing I want to criticize. Okay. Otherwise, I'm very happy.
You really want to hear it? Well, we were on tour in Boston. It was the travel day. It was really cold, really cold. Walls of snow, and it was just incredible. And I basically had a seizure in the middle of the street on my own with Oscar. He was 3. Joff was in an art gallery. Nobody managed to contact him. And my parents turned up that day. I was supposed to meet them. I woke up in hospital and they said, "Don't worry, we've got your son."
Emma and Oscar are obviously fine, but in the next and last episode of Kids on Board, we're going to hear just how fragile and exposed you are when something happens on a tour. Also, what it's like trying to keep up with your family's daily routine when you're thousands of kilometres away from home, and just how important are our children to the future of music. Between the Bars would like to say a huge thanks to singers Mark Padmore, Gilles Cachamet, Peter Matteo, Lisa Larson and Till Fechner for their fabulous performances from our EMI recording of Mozart's Don Giovanni. And also thanks to the lovely Mathilda Lörstad and Oliver Sundboy Dondelinger, interviewed by producer Matthias Mayr. Between the Bars is Marlow Chamber Orchestra production. Keep listening.
Between the Bars.